Greetings, fellow programmers. This is Pavel with a C# exercise from the book C# How to Program. This is chapter 14, exercise 11, and we are going to be doing some winforms stuff. The project says we are supposed to create some kind of like a typing tutor. Basically, it says that in this exercise you'll build an app that can help users learn to touch type. For example, type correctly without looking at the keyboard. The app should display a virtual keyboard that mimics the one on your computer and should allow the user to watch what he or she is typing on the screen without looking at the actual keyboard. Use buttons to represent the keys. As the user presses each key, the app highlights the corresponding button and adds the character to a text box that shows what the user has typed so far. Hint: to highlight a button, use its BackColor property to change the background color, and when the key is released, reset its original background color. You can test your program by typing a pangram, which is a phrase that contains every letter of the alphabet at least once, such as "the quick brown fox jumped over a lazy dog." You can find other pangrams on the web. And to make the program more interesting, you could monitor the user's accuracy, and you could have the user type specific phrases that you pre-stored in your program and that you display on the screen above the virtual keyboard. You could keep track of how many keystrokes the user types correctly and how many are typed incorrectly. And you could also keep track of which keys the user is having difficulty with and display a report showing these keys. So this is gonna be several parts exercise. This is a little different than what I usually do because I don't have the whole thing programmed yet, and like I would output, I would upload the video of all the parts at once. So this is gonna be just one at a time. So today we'll start with the form, which I already have. Let me just show it to you. A little form. Here is a text box where the text that the user is supposed to type will show. This will contain the panagram. This is just some instructions. Basically, we click the start button, and over here in this text box, which is locked and read only, the phrase will appear. It instructs you to type as fast as you can, and as you type, the letters you press on your keyboard will be highlighted. Now I don't have the whole keyboard here because I just didn't feel like doing all the keys, so I have the alphabet, I have shift, spacebar, and a period. And everything else will be considered invalid key because my panagrams will not contain any numbers or anything like that. Only these will be needed that are already on this keyboard here. So, and when you press enter on your keyboard, you move to the next phrase. So basically, once we type the phrase, pressing enter will move us to the next phrase, and we'll be able to check whether it was correct. Currently I have 3 phrases. Oh, we also have a list box. This is going to be used to display the statistics. So like I said, I have a text box, a text file over here that I put in the bin/debug. Now if you cannot see that folder, the bin folder, just click this that says show all files, and it will be, and in bin and debug you can put your panagram.txt. You can put it anywhere, but this way you don't have to bother with the path to the text file. It will be kind of this is the place where it looks by default. So when I open the text file, I have 3 phrases there. The 5 bucks in wizards jump quickly. I found this on the internet, of course. Brownie gods just flocked up to quiz and wax him, and the quick brown fox jumped over a lazy dog. So this is dog. So this is the text file. So I'll be loading the text file and into the text box over here, and then we will be typing it. So Now my strategy is a little different than what you might be used to. First of all, I did not use buttons, I just used labels. I didn't even bother naming them, like for example this one is just called label number 2, this one is just called label 20. The names are not important. What is important though, that I have here, are tag. Each of these labels has a tag that corresponds with the letter that it represents. Like Q has a tag Q, W has a tag W. Now there's also shift, which I just named, where's the tag? Now I cannot even find it. Oh, that's text. I just named it shift. And space bar, I have tag as space, and the period, I don't even have that, so I'll just put a period there. And shift, I'll just type shift as a tag, because tag will be something that you will see later how it's being used to determine based on what key is being pressed, we will highlight the letter that is being on our little keyboard here that corresponds with the letter that is being pressed by the user. Alright, so that's the explanation. So let me just put this over here. Let's start with quit button. That's the simplest thing, I think. So that's going to be, you know, just quitting our app, not doing anything anything special at all. So we will do our application dot not that dot exit. So now when we obviously start the form and I click the quit button, the application should exit, and it does. Alright, so but let's get to some real coding here. Well, I'm gonna start with the start button, because once we start the button, I'm going to load the pangrams from my text file into an array, and we will display them one at a time in the text box on our form. So I will do read the text file and populate the array pangrams. So I will do an array pangrams, and it will be just a string, new string array of, I have 3 sentences there, so I'll just use 3. I'll just hard code it. And we will do the reader equals the new stream reader. And again, like I said, I have it in the bin slash debug folder, so that's the default path for these files. So I don't have to do any path. I'll just type the name of the file, which I named pangrams.txt. Okay, so we have our reader, and now let's read all the files and populate the array. So we have I'll do a counter, which I will use as an index for my array, because I'm gonna do a while loop instead of a for loop. I will do while, not the reader end of stream. So as long as there are any as long as there's any text to read it until the end of file, basically until the end of the text is reached. So we will do pangrams, which is the name of our array, and counter, like I said, that's the index, and we will assign it to whatever the reader read in that line. It's one line at a time. And we will of course have to increase the counter at the end. So what doesn't it like? Okay, so because this it's not a string build. I don't know why I did it. It's just a string. Pangrams is an array of strings. So now we have our array with all the text from the text file. So now when that happens, we can now start reading. So we can what I'm going to do here is set the text, which I named text write. That's where I will be writing my my text, and I will set the focus on it. So now when I start it and press start, it will populate the array behind the scenes, and we should have the text box should have the focus on it. So so we can start typing. So now what I want is when I press a letter, let's say A, I want A on the keyboard to be highlighted. When I press space, I want the space bar to be highlighted, and so forth. So how to do that? That's the question. Well, there's what we can do. We have to create an event that will kind of listen to whatever key is being pressed. And the best way to do it, since we have the text box, I can assign this event to this text box. Once I press start, I am ready to type. I can start checking what key is being pressed. So I click on the text box, the one that I'm gonna write into, and I click on this lightning, which is the events, and I'm gonna scroll down actually and find the event for the key down right here, and I will create an event. I'll just name it form on key pressed. So this will be triggered every time a key is being pressed. So when I enter, it created an event over here, form on key press, and this is important. It expects, or it sends out the key event args, which is the arguments for the key event. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to use that to check what key is being pressed. Now I'm going to create a method called HighlightKeyPress. So I'm just gonna call it from here, from that event. Highlight key pressed, and I'm going to pass the E dot, and you can see right, the first thing is a key code, which gets the keyboard code for key down or key up event. That's basically is going to send back the letter or the key that is being pressed. So E dot key code, and I have to convert it to string though. So when this event is triggered, it checks what triggered it, which in this case we don't really care for, but it also sends what key event, in this case what key was being pressed, and we are going to pass that as an argument to our method called HighlightKeyPress, which I'm gonna create right now. So I'm gonna create private HighlightKeyPress, and it expects a string of the key that is being pressed. That's what we are passing as the E.key code. So now we have the method. It's a void, I forgot. So now we have the method that will highlight the keys, but how do we highlight them? Well, this is where the tags will come handy. I'm going to loop through all the controls on the form. That includes all the buttons, labels, text boxes, and all the controls. So I will do loop through controls on the form, and it's a fairly simple for each loop for each, and variable I'll just do C in, and the collection is this dot controls. This in this case stands for the form. Basically loop through all controls on this form. Alright, so but I'm not interested in any buttons or text boxes, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do a condition if the C, if the control is label, because that's the only one I'm interested in. All these on my keyboard, these are all labels, so I'm only interested in labels. So if it's a label, then check the tag, and but in order to do that I have to declare a label and cast. This is a control, so I'm gonna do a label C. So now this is not just a C is not a control anymore. Now if this is a label, then cast it as a label, so I have access to all the properties that the label has. Because if I do about here and I just do C period, I only have 4 of them available, not the ones I need. What I need is the if I do now the label, all these properties and methods are available to me that any label on the form has. So if I have the label now, what I can do is check the tag. So if the label dot tag dot to string and to upper, it's just so I have a I don't have to try to like check for the case. It's basically just all of them to upper. If this equals, remember what we are passing? We are passing the key, which is the key that is being pressed. So if it equals to the key that to upper like that, then we have a match. Remember, the tag holds the same letter that is on the label. Like I said before, G has a tag of G, M has a tag of M, and so forth. So if I press the key M on my keyboard and the label has the tag M, then that's the one I want to highlight, because I want to highlight the label with the letter M on it. So if this is the case, so we can all we have to do is label dot BackColor equals to the color. Oh, it's a capital color dot, and I can do the blue violet. Why not? So if again I'm looping through all the objects on the control, on the form, all the controls on the form. If I'm happening to be on a label control, then create a label, assign cast it to as a label, so I can I can check the tag, and if the tag matches the key that is being pressed, then just highlight it, and that's all there is to it. So well, let me run it and see if that's gonna work. I'm pretty sure not yet, probably. So I'll press start, I press Q, and nothing happens. I'm getting an exception. Object reference not set, because so the key is a Q like I pressed, and what is my tag? Tag is null. Oh, you know why? Because okay, some of the labels, for example this one, it's a label but it doesn't have any tag, so it starts looping through here and comes to a label with no tag. So this is not possible to check because the label does not have a tag, so it cannot be instantiated like that. So what we have to do, so change the if statement, and I'll just change it to if the label dot, not text but tag, is not null. In other words, if the label actually has a tag and it matches the key, then change it. So let's see if that works for me. If I press start and I press Q, it's highlighted. You can see they all highlight, but they don't go away. Okay, so but it's a start, because I have to reset the colors after it's being highlighted. So with the next keystroke, the color is being reset and a new the new label is being highlighted. So what I'm gonna do, right after here, if you find a match, I can do return. Basically, exit the whole function, the whole method, because we found a match. No need to loop through the rest of the objects. And after the for each loop, if no match was found, in other words, if this is never executed because we have no match, like I said, I don't have the whole keyboard. Basically, I'll just highlight this one, Invalid Key Press. That's my label that I want to highlight if neither of these keys is being pressed. So I'll just gonna do label Invalid Key. That's the only label I named. This one has actually a name. Like I said, it is called LBL Invalid Key. So if we don't find a match, so highlight this one. So invalid key dot BackColor equals color dot blue violet. But it still is not a resetting the colors. So what I'm gonna do here, when the key is being pressed, I'm gonna call a method that resets the colors. So over here, I'm gonna call reset colors, and I'm gonna create a method now, and so it's gonna be private void reset. It's a lowercase reset colors, and I'm gonna do something similar to this. I'm just gonna copy this because the portion is the same. I'm just gonna loop through the object, and if it's a label, then I will simply do something like label equals, and I'll cast it again. This is the same part as before. What's gonna be different is I'm gonna reset the color here. Label dot BackColor equals color dot, and I don't want blue violet, I want empty. Basically it means no color at all, or just default color. So when a key is pressed, the first thing that it runs is the reset colors. It comes over here, it loops through the controls again, and if it's a label, just reset the color of it. Don't worry about anything else. After that, we come over here and we check if the label matches the key that is being pressed. So let me run it. So I press start and I press Q and it's there. I press W, there you go. And you can see that I press Z, B, so it matches. So what if I press shift? Oh, it says invalid key. That's not really invalid key. Space matches, and the period is still invalid key. So what we have to do, we have to find out what the system calls those keys, because I know that shift, I just called it shift, which is the tag, which is what the system calls it. The shift key is shift, but I'm sorry. I'm talking about the space bar. The space bar is space, but just a space. But the shift key, I called it shift, but obviously that's not what the system calls it. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna put a breakpoint over here. I'm gonna run it, and I'm gonna press a shift key. After I press start, of course, press shift key. It comes to the breakpoint, and I can hover my mouse over the key that is being pressed, and you can see that it says shift key. It doesn't just say shift, it says shift key. So the system calls this shift key. So I have to change the tag to shift key. So I come over to my form, I get my shift key, and I will change the tag from shift to shift key. And I'm gonna do the same with the period. If I click start and press the period, it comes over here, and the period is called OEM period. So I have to change my tag to that. So I'll highlight the label with the period, and instead of just the period that I actually named it, it's going to be OEM period. Alright, so that should take care of that. Let me run it now again. So here I am, pressing start, I press Q, W, so these still work, you can see. I press space, and it's being highlighted, and I press shift key, and it's being highlighted. And if I press the period, it's being highlighted too. And if I press a number, the invalid key pressed is being highlighted. Correct key, invalid key, correct key, invalid key. So yeah, I think we have it working fairly well. So all right, so that should be all for now. Not really sure. Yeah, that's the highlighting, and in the next video we will work on the rest of the project. Okay, so I'll see you then. Take care.